Hi, this is Kimberly. Today I'll be sharing with you the first part of Day 5 testimony in the trial of Chris McNabb and Cortney Bell. This was an unrelenting, spellbinding day, packed full of absorbing witness accounts. I did cut out the long breaks and pauses, so it just flows consistently without interruption. And there was someone that was having a wheezing, coughing fit, and I was able to trim out part of that. I don't know why someone didn't get them a glass of water. They needed it badly. You're welcome. You're probably saying, Kimberly, you need a glass of water too. Well, my meds make my mouth dry and I do the best I can. Trust me, you don't want me off my meds. Ask my husband. So, up first in the witness box is Courtney Gail Morris, the girl that texted with Chris 2.0 that Friday night and into Saturday morning. All the while he was texting with this other girl, he was playing house with Courtney, having sex with Courtney, entertaining a guest. Do you remember Courtney's cousin Craig stopped by that evening to smoke dope with Tweedledee and Tweedledum shit? And taking care of the new baby and being sure to wrap up the 2-week-old newborn Caliyah snug as a bug in a rug, as he learned at the hospital. He was proud of that, too. He should be. He did it well. Then next to take the stand, we meet Mathew Lester. This is the young gentleman that was lured over to the trailer, presumably to smoke dope and play video games, but after only a few minutes, he was, in his words, jumped. Jumped means to be attacked or assaulted by 2 or more people. Chris had talked about this fight a lot in his interviews with Jeff Alexander. I'm telling you, this fight was much more serious than I initially thought. Now, we have some riveting testimony on this day. Next up came Shane Kidd. He's a friend of Chris and Courtney. He's also friends with Pam Hamby, Courtney's mama, and with Chris's daddy. I think he's friends with Mike Hamby too, which would be Pam's brother. I don't know. They all know each other in this town. Everybody knows everybody else. It's one of those. I don't know Chris's father's name, but the only thing I know about Chris's father is that he would seemingly alternate months in paying Tweedledee and Dum's rent and other bills. I do recommend watching Shane Kidd's testimony more than once. I did. As I was editing, each time I just picked up more bits and bobs, if you will. I was literally on the edge of my seat with my mouth hanging open in a not-so-ladylike manner, I might add. Good thing I was by myself. But I think it was a lot for the jurors to take in one day, all of this testimony and stuff they heard. But that's how it is. And then lastly, we're introduced to Bo Alexander. Bo Alexander is the special investigator for the DA's office. He took the stand as the final witness for the state on this Monday. I didn't give you the date of it. It was Monday, May 13th, 2019 was this trial date. So the name sounds familiar, Alexander, doesn't it? Yes, he is a relative of the lead investigator at Newton County Sheriff's Office, Jeff Alexander. Crime fighting runs in their family the same way that meth use runs in these other people's families. Wait until you hear his testimony to hear about that. But Bo Alexander's testimony is another one that I suggest watching more than once. He's just loaded with information, and he's the one that dug up all the Facebook messages and stuff. So I wish they had released discovery in this case like they did in the Fuckface McGee Watts case. Bo is. He's pretty cool. He's on the stand for quite a while, so I have to split up his testimony, and you'll just see the first part of this at the end of this video, which is a little bit more than an hour or so. And wait a minute, nix that last part. I got way ahead of myself. I realized during editing we're not going to see Bo in this particular video, so think of all that shit I said about him as a promo. And shit, okay? But he will be at the beginning of the next one, so Y'all know how disorganized I am every time I try to be organized, and then I fuck it all up. This video actually ends with a meltdown, and it's pretty good, so you're going to enjoy this video. So let me get back to the nannering on where I just didn't know what the hell I was doing and thought Bo was going to be on this video. So forget Bo Alexander for now. Got it? Thank you. That's quite long enough, but before I depart so that y'all can watch this trial, I know y'all are waiting for me to stop yammering, but remember when Chris and Shit 2.0 was saying that law enforcement's mind was already made up, especially Jeff, that Chris was the guilty party, and Mr. Alexander said, quote, "That's not the way I work. I don't go on my gut feeling or anything like that. I go on what the evidence tells me." And so far, I'm like, what evidence? There's circumstantial stuff, but there's no... Y'all watch this and then tell me if y'all are starting to gather evidence that Chris did this. He looks sneakingly suspicious, yes, but solid proof? I'm not seeing it, and if I'm missing it, please point it out to me, because, yeah, I do glaze over shit sometimes. So far, I've not seen anything concrete, but surely they will blow it out of the water on day 5 of testimony, I thought in my head, because they've had all weekend to prepare. So please, let me know what you think. Did they blow it out of the water in part 1? I really feel conflicted. I do know that I would love to say that neither one of them did this, that neither Chris or Courtney did this. I don't know. And one more thing before I head out. I don't think everybody that testified on this day got the memo about what they were supposed to wear to court, because apparently they were all supposed to wear orange, and some people just showed up wearing regular street clothes. And weren't they supposed to be wearing their orange court costume? Courtney Morris and Matt Lester, they both wore theirs. I don't know why Bo and Shane didn't get their outfit. It's paid for by the state, and they even gave Chris 2.0 to change into after he was running in the woods that day for 2 hours and then got arrested. But anyway, within today's testimony, this is by far the best one I've seen so far. So not to wrap up this, but within this glorious day of testimony, someone has a meltdown. It's in this video. You are guaranteed to enjoy this day of testimony. It's a lot to soak in. It may leave you with a whole lot of questions, not just this part 1, but day 5 as a whole. Hands down, the most riveting day of testimony by far, in my opinion. So, yeah, I've got more to say about today's cast of characters, but I don't want to reveal all that shit that you're about to watch, so I'll save it for the next video. I'll yammer then. I've been kind of quiet today. Have y'all noticed that I'm all tranquil and shit? So, pause the video right now. Go pee, grab a snack and a beverage of your choice, adult or not, is optional. And anything else you require, like when you're going to go watch a good movie, your candy and your fuzzy blanket and stuff. But I realize just how lukewarm things have been up until now. Not really, it's not been lukewarm. It's been quite entrancing, I shall say, from the beginning. And remember, this is only part 1 of 3. I'll have the next 2 videos out to you fairly quickly. Please revel in episode 25, day 5, part 1 of As the Mobile Home Park Wheels Turn, starring Crystal Meth Lab and Courtney Bell. Much love and peace. Thank you for listening.
Now, I'm not a mother. I never give birth to a child.
I was trying.
Was it or was it not your fault? Your relationship with the child's father was tumultuous. You know what that means? It was violent. How many times did he hit you? How many times did he hit you when you were pregnant with that child? How many times did you sit in this room right here and lie by your very own admission that you have some culpability in the deprivation of that child?
For Mathew Shane Lester, indicating dates of incarceration from October 2nd, 2017 until October the 17th of 2017. Would it therefore have been possible for Mathew Lester to have broken into the residence and stolen baby Caliyah and killed her and left her in the woods?
No, it would not have been.
Tell me about. Did you look at anything on television or social media about this case, or did you look at newspapers and read anything about this case? If so, let me know now. I'll get everybody saying no. Thank y'all. Now you may call your next witness.
State calls Courtney Morris. Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the matter now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down and have a seat. Will you slide up to that microphone and state your name for the record?
Courtney Gail Morris, Malcolm Moss.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention back to, well, first of all, why are you coming from the back, Ms. Morris?
I'm incarcerated at this time for possession of methamphetamines.
And I'm going to direct your attention back to October 6th of 2017. Do you have a Facebook, Ms. Morris?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, and what name do you go by?
Courtney Gail Morris.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I would tender State's Exhibit 73. It's Facebook records for Courtney Gail Morris with a business record certification.
Any objection? No objection. And what number was it?
Number 73.
It was submitted without objection.
Ms. Morris, back on that date, were you communicating with anyone on Facebook?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who was that you were, what was the Facebook name?
Jordan something, Cracker something.
Okay. If I approach you with an excerpt from that time, would that help refresh your
Yes, ma'am.
recollection? I'm on page 717. I'm showing you page 717 and 716. Do you recognize these?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. And who are the people communicating in these messages?
Myself and Chris is what's his real name, but Jordan on Facebook.
Okay, is that Jordan Headcrack Izzo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how did you know that it was Chris?
Miss Terry Garner informed me that that's whose Facebook it was after she contacted me to help find a missing child.
Could you see a profile picture that was linked?
The profile picture was his picture. She sent me a picture of the defendant, and his picture matched the profile.
Okay, and Your Honor, may I have permission to publish page 717 and 716?
Any objection?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Morris, I guess we discussed these records at
Yes,
the,
ma'am.
at the Newton County Sheriff's Office. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you also at that time, were you able to pull them up on your own Facebook?
Yes,
and show me?
ma'am. I still have them on my own Facebook.
Okay. And could you see the actual times that those were?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Down here, when were these messages happening down here?
They begin around 10:30 p.m. And they end at 9:44 a.m. the following morning.
Okay. And what are y'all discussing at that point?
In the beginning of the message, he's contacted me saying that we've never met. We run in the same circle of friends, and that we've never met. And then I asked him if he knew a common friend of mine that had the same similar tattoo as he, and he said he did not. Then he says, I asked him which friends, and he said we would discuss that if we ever met in person. That he didn't want to talk about it on Facebook. And then I get blocked. At some point, I get blocked during the messages.
How did you know that you were blocked?
I tried to reply, and it said I couldn't reply to those messages. And then I suppose he unblocked me, and then he said he didn't know what happened. He didn't know why I got blocked.
I was confused about this. Chronologically, is this going from bottom to top or top to bottom?
It goes from the bottom of the page to the top.
Okay, there, y'all be aware of that. If you look at it, it's going to be from the bottom all the way up to the top.
Okay. And Ms. Morris, you discussed that he sent you a message after you had been unblocked. Is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Okay. And I'm going to point your attention to the top of this page. Is this the message that you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what time did you receive that message?
I believe that message came at 9:44 because there was a missed call directly after that message.
Okay. And then are you referring to on page 716 at the bottom of this page?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if that one is it says 1344, but it's your understanding that this is a universal time. Is that
Right.
correct? So the time that you told me was the correct time?
9:44
Okay.
a.m.
And then this message that he had sent, or that you received earlier, what time was that one at?
The beginning, the first one,
The one right before the missed phone call. Was it just a couple
a
minutes
couple
before that?
minutes beforehand.
Okay. Did you receive any more messages from him after that?
I don't believe so. I believe he took his Facebook off of Facebook at that time.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Carter?
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Ms. Morris. How are you?
Good morning, I'm fine.
You are incarcerated at this time for possession of methamphetamine.
Yes, sir, I've not been convicted yet.
Have you, do you have a bond set?
No, sir, I do not at this time.
Is that because you have a probation violation?
No, sir, I'm not currently on probation.
So it's just possession of meth, and you do not have a bond?
I don't have a bond because I have a prior charge in June that I'm going to trial against.
Okay. So you have two pending charges then?
Yes, sir,
All
I
right.
do.
What's the other pending charge?
Possession of methamphetamine paraphernalia, sir.
Okay. In addition to possessing methamphetamine, you also sell methamphetamine. Is that fair?
No, that's not fair.
Okay. Has the DA offered you any consideration for coming in here and testifying
No,
here?
sir, they have not.
Could you let me finish my question, please?
Yes, sir.
Has the district attorney offered you anything, any kind of deal or anything to come in here and testify here today?
No, sir, they did not.
Are you expecting that they will once you testify?
No, sir, I do not.
All right. You did not know Chris McNabb prior to this day, is that fair?
That's fair.
You've never actually met him.
You're right, sir, I have not.
You guys added each other on Facebook on the 7th.
Yes, sir.
You spoke from 10:30 till about 10:45, 10:47. Is that fair?
9:44 the following morning.
I'm sorry. You communicated with him between 10:30 and 10:47 on the evening of October 6th.
Yes, sir.
All right. At some point, you realized when you tried to write him back, you realized that you were blocked.
Yes, sir.
And so he added you back about 9:40, 9:42 on October 7th in the morning. Is that right?
He wouldn't have added me back, he would have unblocked his page, because if you block somebody, it takes 72 hours to unblock them. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Facebook, but if you block your page from Facebook, you can reactivate it and you can regain contact to your friends. So he would have deactivated his page, not actually blocked me.
All right. So, may I approach you on it? On my page, it says 178. This is the same page we've been looking at, though. The second,
Page number's at the top on the right.
178.
Once,
It's different on my page.
you mean that top page? I thought it was 7 something.
It is. I can use this one, Judge. That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
73. The second to last entry, does it not say Jordan added you on Messenger?
Where at here, sir? Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. And that was 9:42 in the morning on October 7th.
Yes, sir.
You want to look at it again? All right. And then at about 30 seconds later, he says, "My bad, I don't know what happened." Is that right?
Yes, sir, because it blocked me.
Right. So when he said, "My bad, I don't know what happened," he was basically apologizing for accidentally blocking you.
Which would have meant he deactivated his page again. Like I said, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Facebook, but in order to block someone on Facebook, you can't reply to them for 72 hours after you block them on Facebook.
And then
So he would have reactivated his page.
And then at 9:44 in the morning,
Yes, sir.
he tried to call you and you didn't answer.
Right,
And that's the only contact you had with Chris McNabb.
right.
That's all I have, Judge.
Mr. Frost? Ms. Stone?
Just to be clear, who initiated that conversation?
He did.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Anything further? You may step down.
About the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, make sure you pull up to that microphone so we can hear you. And will you state and spell your name for the record?
Mathew Lester, Mathew Lester.
Okay, Mr. Lester, why are you coming from the back today?
To explain how I got jumped on in Pine Valley Trailer Park.
Let me clarify. You came from the the back, are you in one of the holding cells?
Yes.
Okay, why are you being brought in that way?
She's asking you, why are you in the holding cell?
Because I'm incarcerated.
All right, I'm gonna draw your attention back to September of 2017. Did you know Christopher McNabb or Courtney Bell then?
I met him. I met him one time.
Okay, and at some point did you go over to their trailer?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that?
Ended up over there with Shane Kidd to get a ride, and went to town and came back, and was sitting there. We was just sitting there smoking and just playing a video game, and Timmy Rustin showed up and they jumped on me.
Okay, when you said they, who were you talking about?
Timmy Rustin, Chris McNabb, and Shane Kidd.
And did you know Christopher McNabb before that incident?
No, ma'am.
Okay, did you know Shane Kidd before that incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you say they jumped on you, what specifically do you mean by that?
They just started punching me and kicking me, and it took place from the living room all the way down the hallway till I reached the back door. And when I opened the back door, that's when they kicked me out over the rail, and I took off running to the top side of the trailer park.
What happened after that? Did you have any items with you that day that you went over there?
I did. I had a red and black book bag with the Atlanta Braves emblem on it, and it had a few items in it that I remember: a pair of shoes, Nike shoes, a broken necklace, and I think that's it.
Do you know what happened to those items?
They got left in the trailer.
You left them?
Well, yeah, I mean, I got out the only way I could, and anything that I had with me was left.
You explained some shoes. Can you tell us about the shoes that you said you had?
It was tan and purple Nike shoes.
Okay, had you recently gotten those shoes?
I got them from a guy over in Anderson Circle.
I'm going to show you what's been previously tendered as State Exhibit 65. Do you recognize these?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And are these the shoes that you've been explaining?
They are.
Okay. Did you ever see what happened to those items?
No, I did not.
Did you ever break into Christopher McNabb and Courtney Bell's trailer?
No, ma'am.
Where did you see Chris McNabb after you were able to escape and get away? Did you see where he went or what happened with him?
There was a lot of movement going on that way, and they was running towards the woods.
And when you say they again, who are you referring to?
Shane Kidd and Chris McNabb.
Did you ever go back over to the trailer after that day?
No, I did not.
And did you ever go into the trailer and take baby Caliyah out?
No, ma'am.
Where were you at the time that baby Caliyah was missing and eventually found killed?
I was in Douglas County Jail.
And do you know the times that you were at Douglas County Jail, the dates?
It was October 2nd, October 10th.
If I showed you the certified bookend report, would that help refresh your recollection as to those dates?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm pointing your attention to the bottom of the page. And the top of the third page, I'm sorry. So were you maybe released on October 17th, 2017?
Yes, 17th.
No matter what the dates are, when baby Caliyah went missing, were you in custody at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, directing your attention back to that September date when you said they jumped you. Was Shane Kidd involved in hitting on you?
That I remember, I don't think he was involved as far as physically hitting me, but I think he had a big thing to do with setting it up to get him there to jump on me.
Okay, and how badly were you injured on that date?
My whole head was I had cuts all in my head, and my face was swollen, and there was a lot of blood, a lot of bleeding.
You said they were hitting and kicking you. Were they just using their hands?
hands and feet and brass knuckles.
Right, who had brass knuckles?
Chris McNabb.
Okay. And what did you do once you were able to get away?
I got, like I say, I worked my way down the hallway into the back door, and when I got the back door open, that's when they kicked me over the rail, and I just ran to the front of the trailer park.
And then where did you go from there?
There was a neighbor up at the top of the trailer park standing out, and I asked him could I use the phone, and that's when I called the 911.
Okay. Did you make a report to police on that date?
I refused medical treatment at that time, and I did not make a report.
Okay. Did you ever get medical treatment because of that?
I did it was later on that night when I ended up at my parents' house because I passed out and they called the ambulance for me.
So did you end up going to the hospital that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what sort of medical treatment did you get on that day?
I went to the emergency room and they just cleaned my head up and a CAT scan and all on my head.
No further questions.
Mr. Carter?
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Lester. How are you?
Good morning.
What are you currently incarcerated for?
I'm incarcerated for fleeing and elude felony.
Okay. Do you have a probation violation attached to it?
Yes, sir.
All right. How many pending charges and probation violations do you have right now?
I don't have any pending charges. They're all taken care of.
All right. Has the district attorney offered you anything with regard to your case or any other benefit in order to come in here and testify here today?
No, sir.
Are you expecting that you will get some kind of benefit for coming in here and testifying?
No, sir.
You are the same Mathew Shane Lester that pled guilty to felony fleeing or attempting to elude in the Superior Court of Newton County on April 25th of 2018?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, tender Defense Exhibit M6, which is a certified copy of that conviction.
Show it to Ms. Zahn.
No objection.
It's submitted without objection.
You are the Mathew Shane Lester that pled guilty to giving false information to a law enforcement officer in the Superior Court of Newton County on February 8th of 2011.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would tender Defense Exhibit M7, which is a certified copy.
Any objection from anybody?
No objection.
Submitted without objection.
You are the same Mathew Shane Lester that entered a guilty plea to felony obstruction of an officer on February 8th of 2011.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, tender Defense Exhibit M8.
No objection.
Submitted without objection.
And you are the same Mathew Shane Lester that pled guilty to aggravated assault in the Superior Court of Newton County on February 8th of 2011. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, tender Defense Exhibit M9, which is a certified copy.
No objection.
Submitted without objection.
Now, you did not know Christopher McNabb at this time. In September 2017 when you came over to his house.
No, sir.
You knew Shane Kidd.
Shane Kidd.
And you didn't have any kind of beef with Chris McNabb at that time either.
No, sir.
But Timmy Rushton thought you were hitting his mom, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Were you?
No, sir.
Timmy thought you did.
Yes, sir.
And he came over, and when he came over to the house that day, you were playing games like you said. You were chilling, but when Timmy got there, then the fight was on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you and Timmy resolved your differences?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you left these shoes that we're talking about. Those are your shoes, and those were left there at that time, so, right?
Yes, sir. He was left in a book bag.
All right. Did you ever speak with investigators in this particular case?
No, sir.
Did Investigator Alexander, did he ever try to contact you or come to the jail and visit you?
No, sir.
All right. That's all I have, Judge.
Mr. Frost?
No questions, thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Stone?
Mr. Lester, you said that y'all were over at Mr. McNabb's house smoking. What were y'all smoking?
Meth.
No further questions.
Anything further?
No, sir.
You may step down. Call your next witness.
State calls Jeremy Shane Kidd. Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before this court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you slide up a little bit to that microphone? Please state your name for the record.
Jeremy Shane Kidd,
Mr. Kidd, how old are you?
41,
How many children do you have?
6,
What are their age ranges? From young, just the youngest
19,
and the
19 to
oldest?
4.
Are you currently employed?
Yes,
What kind of work do you do?
surveying.
Do you know Christopher McNabb?
Yes,
How do you know him?
I was good friends with his uncle and his dad,
So, who was his father?
Mike McNabb.
And you said you were good friends with them. What do you mean by that?
Well, I ain't seen him. I hadn't seen him recently up until I seen Chris again for, I don't know, about 15 years.
Okay. So is that somebody that you used to hang out with or associate
Yep.
with?
Yep,
And did you see Chris when he was a child?
yes,
And how long have you known Chris for?
since he was about 7.
Okay. And what about Courtney Bell? Do you know her?
Yes.
How do you know her?
Her mom, through Pam.
Okay. Do you know her father as well?
Yes,
Is it fair to say then that you know both of their families on each side?
right.
Okay. Now, in the fall of 2017, were you hanging around with Christopher McNabb?
Yes,
What was the nature of y'all's relationship?
we just
Besides being friends, what did y'all do together?
got high.
I'm sorry.
Got high.
Got high?
Mhm.
Okay. And what did you get high on?
Meth.
All right. Now, I'm going to draw your attention back to September the 13th of 2017. Do you recall an occasion where you saw Mathew Lester?
Yes,
Now, was there some sort of a beef between Timmy Rushton and Mathew Lester?
yes.
Can you tell the members of the jury what that was about?
Matt was with Timmy's mama, and anyways, Timmy told him that, don't put his hands on his mama, and Matt did, and they got, Timmy did what he needed to do, I guess.
Okay. So what did Timmy need to do?
Fight him.
Okay. Were you involved in getting Mathew Lester set up in a position where he could be beat up?
I guess.
Tell the members of the jury what happened that day.
Timmy called me and asked me if I'd seen Matt, and I told him yeah, and he told me what had happened between Matt and his mom, and wanted me to bring him to him, and I told him that, it ain't my car, I can't do it, Anyways, I told him to call Chris, and him and Chris talked and set it up to go back to Chris and Courtney's trailer, and that's where it happened at.
Okay. Now, were you at the trailer on that day?
Yes.
So how did Matt get to the trailer?
Me, Chris, and Courtney picked him up on 142, and he went back with us.
Okay. Now, what about the little girl? Are you familiar with Clarissa
Mhm.
and also Caliyah?
Yes.
Okay. With respect to Clarissa, was she there that day at the trailer?
Yes. She was her and Courtney sat in the car.
Okay. And was Timmy Rushton already there at the trailer when y'all got back with Matt Lester?
No.
So what happened?
We went inside, me, Chris, and Matt went inside. I sat down, I was playing Chris's Xbox, and Matt was sitting in a chair on the other side of the living room, and probably 10, 15 minutes later, Chris walked outside, and he didn't come back in first. Timmy came through the door first, and they started fighting, and then Chris jumped in, and he had a pair of brass knuckles and started hitting Matt. Anyways, they fought all the way down the hallway. When they got to the end of the hallway, Chris opened up the back door and kicked Matt out the back door.
Okay. Now, were you beating up on Matt Lester?
No.
What were you doing?
I kept playing Xbox.
I'm sorry, you kept playing Xbox?
Yeah, it wasn't none of my business.
Okay. Do you recall what you were playing?
Call of Duty.
Now, do you remember whether there was blood there in the trailer?
Not really, no.
Do you remember how, was Matt Lester injured just slightly or severely?
Yeah, he was. When I seen it, when he posted pictures on Facebook, he looked pretty bad.
Okay. But that day, did you actually see him before he got kicked out of the trailer?
Not really.
Are you familiar with the way the trailer is set up there? You talked about that hallway. Where were y'all at in the trailer when Timmy and Chris rushed in?
In the living room.
Okay. And what hallway are you referring to?
The only hallway in the trailer.
Where does it go to?
To their bedroom.
I'm gonna show you, State's Exhibit number 22. You have a screen in front of you. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Is that, the doorway? Which doorway did Chris and Timmy come in? That porch doorway or the one on the back side?
That one.
Okay. And when you talk about him being kicked out of the trailer, was that on the same side or is that on the
No,
opposite
it was
side?
on the opposite side.
So I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit number 24. Is that, the opposite side of the trailer?
Yes.
Okay. And where exactly was Timmy seated in the residence, Matt seated in the residence when he got jumped?
In a chair, like right across from the front door.
Okay, I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit number 33. Do you recognize that as the inside of the trailer?
Yes.
What chair was he in?
That one right there.
Okay, can you mark that on your screen if you touch
It
it?
ain't on the screen.
I'm sorry?
It's not on the screen.
The chair's not on the screen?
No, the picture ain't on the screen.
You don't see it on your screen?
Nope.
Okay.
Is it on? Can somebody come up here and check his screen?
Okay. Now, I'm gonna hit clear here, and there shouldn't be any markings. Can you draw, Mr. Kidd, on there where you were and where Matt Lester was?
I was right there, and Matt was right there.
Okay. And you referred to the hallway. I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit number 34. Can you tell us what's depicted there?
Hallway.
And how far down this hallway did Mr. Lester go?
To that door right there.
What happened after, who kicked him out of the door?
Chris.
What happened after Chris kicked him out of the door?
Matt went up, he went running up the hill, and we both looked out the window, and Matt was talking to somebody, and Chris said, "Come on, the police probably coming." So Chris started grabbing all the paraphernalia out of his house and put it in a camouflage shirt or a jacket on. Anyways, when we started going out the door, the book bag that Matt had, I grabbed it, and Chris said, "Come on, we was going to go through the woods and go to Henderson Mill Road, and Courtney was going to pick us up on Henderson Mill."
What, was the book bag? Do you remember what was in there?
I never even looked in it.
Why were y'all getting the book bag out of, or why was Chris wanting to get the book bag out of the trailer?
We didn't know what was in it.
I'm sorry?
We didn't know what was in it.
Okay. Now, did you ever find out what was in it when you got out there?
No.
Did you ever take anything out of the bag?
No.
You said Chris was the one who took you down the trail, or did you take Chris down the trail?
Chris took me down it.
Have you ever gone down that trail before?
No.
Have you lived there in Eagle Point Mobile Home Park?
No.
Were you aware of the existence of that trail, if you will, or power line
No.
easement that led to Henderson Mill?
No.
So if Chris were to say that it was your idea, or you're the one who showed him that path to go down that trail, would that be the truth?
Nope.
When y'all got down to Henderson Mill, what did y'all do?
Started walking.
And then what happened?
I think maybe he called Courtney and told her that we were on Henderson Mill to pick us up.
Did Courtney come and pick you up?
Yes.
Was there somebody in the car with Courtney?
Just Carissa.
Okay. Now I'm going to draw your attention a little bit forward in that from September the 13th to September the 23rd. Did you have the occasion to be in the hospital just prior to that on the 22nd?
Yes.
And why were you in the hospital?
Had a broken jaw.
Where were you in the hospital at?
Atlanta Medical.
And without getting into too much detail, can you tell members of the jury generally how your jaw got broke?
Somebody hit me with a piece of asphalt.
Okay. So on September the 23rd, or somewhere about that time, did you learn from Mr. McNabb that there was a birth in the family?
Yes.
And did you, at some point in time, go to the hospital to see the baby?
Yes, he came and picked me up.
Okay. And who came and picked you up?
Chris did.
What did y'all do?
First, after he picked me up, we went back to their house, and it was a mess, and he was talking about cleaning it up. Anyways, Courtney started calling wanting him to come back to the hospital, so we left their house and went back to the hospital.
Okay. When you said it was a mess at their house, what do you mean by that?
It was nasty.
The trailer was nasty? Describe what you mean by that.
Just stuff everywhere. Trash, clothes. It was just a mess.
Was that of any concern to you?
Not really.
Did you make any efforts to get it cleaned up?
Yeah, I did.
Why'd you do that?
Because they had a newborn baby, that's why.
Well, explain that.
Well, he was wanting to clean it up, but Courtney was calling, wanting him to come back to the hospital, so we left and went back to the hospital.
Did you get somebody else to clean
Yes.
it up?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Jessica Schumann and Carrie Carter,
And who are those to you?
just some friends.
Do you know whether or not they actually cleaned it up?
Yes, I was there. Jessica came and picked me up from the hospital. We went and picked up Carrie and went to their house and cleaned it up. I called Chris and told him what we were doing, and he said, go ahead, and thank you.
You've admitted that you've smoked methamphetamine.
Right?
Nonetheless, do you believe that children should be protected?
Yes.
Were you concerned about the newborn being brought into this trailer?
Right.
So when you went to the hospital, did you go into the hospital or did you just? Did
I
you
went
see
into the
baby?
hospital. I went into the lobby,
Okay.
the waiting room right outside the birth center.
Did you see the baby?
No,
What did you do?
just sat in the little waiting area.
Okay. And was that the day that the baby was brought home or just
No, I think it was the day she was born.
okay. Did you later go to the hospital on the day that she was born?
Yeah, I went to the hospital the day
I'm
she was.
sorry, on the day that she came home.
Yes,
And how did you go there?
Chris and Courtney.
So were you in the car with them on that day?
Yes,
When y'all got to the hospital, what did you do?
sat in the car.
Why'd you sit in the car?
Because my jaw was broke and I was trying to eat something. So I just sat in the car and
What were you
waited on
eating?
a burrito.
And was your jaw wired shut at that
Yes,
time?
it was.
Did you have any tubes?
I had a tube coming out, a drain tube coming out from behind my ear.
Why did you go to the hospital given your condition on that day?
Because they asked me to. They asked me to ride with them.
Did you consider Chris a friend at that time?
Yes, I did.
Did you notice whether or not any other of his friends had come to the hospital to see his baby?
No.
Shortly thereafter, did they ever arrive with the child to come back to the car?
Yes.
And what did they do with the child?
Put her in the car, put her in the car seat, and we left. They
Where-
took me somewhere else and dropped me off, and I don't know where they went after that. I guess they went home.
Okay. Now, for the next, I guess, several days between the time that you were with them on September 27th when the baby was brought home from the hospital to the time that Chris was charged with a probation violation on October the 8th, did you have contact with Chris McNabb?
Yes.
And were you hanging out at different places in Newton County with Mr. McNabb during that period of
Yes.
time? What were y'all doing during that period of time?
Just hanging out, getting high.
Have you had the occasion to review some of the Facebook records in connection with this case?
Not really.
Do you know whether or not Mr. McNabb texted you or communicated with you in some form or fashion on the morning of October the 7th, 2017?
Yes.
What time did he reach out to you?
He texted me all night long that Friday night.
Why was he texting you?
He was wanting to know where I was.
Did
He
you
was trying to
respond?
eat. Nope.
Why not?
Because that Friday afternoon when he called me and told me that her dad had just brought the kids back home, and Courtney was in the background telling him he wasn't going anywhere, that he was going to stay at home. And I just never answered the phone for him again because I didn't want to be the reason that he took off and caused a fight between both of them.
Now, were you aware of an incident that occurred prior to that where were you ever in the presence when Mr. McNabb made an assault upon Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was at Missy Davis's apartment at the, above the trailer park. Anyways, Chris come up there and said that him and Courtney had just got into a fight. And he stayed up there for a minute and he said he was going back home. I told him I'd walk with him. Anyways, when we got back down there, he walked in and they started arguing again and he jumped on her and started hitting her.
What did you say or do about that?
I told him, enough was enough, come on. Leave her alone.
Now, was there another occasion when you and Mr. McNabb were trying to leave in a car?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
We were trying to leave. I was in Chimmy's mom's car, Cindy's car. Anyways, I stopped by over there, and Chris was wanting to go with me. And Courtney didn't want him to leave, and she kept leaning against the car, standing in the way. And he finally flipped out and jumped out of the car and knocked her down. And then jumped in the car, and he wanted me to take off, but I didn't really take. I left, but I didn't really take off the way he wanted me to. It was like he was telling me to, smash out. But hell, I felt bad for her.
Do you know whether that she was pregnant or she had had the child already?
I want to say she was still pregnant.
Now,
she might not have been.
Are you familiar with this busted out window that I'm showing you in State's Exhibit number 48?
Yeah.
Do you know how that window got busted out?
They told me Chris threw a
Objection,
TV.
Your Honor. Hearsay.
Well, who told you that?
Chris and Courtney told me that Chris threw a TV through it.
Submission by the party opponent, Judge.
Objection overruled.
That Chris threw what through that?
A TV.
Had Chris, were you hanging out with him pretty regularly during these days leading up to baby Caliyah being killed?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you that Matt Lester had broken into his trailer?
No.
Was the whole beef that day where Matt Lester was beat up, was that centered just around Timmy Rushton's
Yes.
mama getting?
Yes.
That's Cindy, right?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not Chris McNabb was a big dope dealer?
No.
Yep. You were smoking dope with him.
Yeah.
How was he acquiring dope at that time?
He didn't really even have any. It was me that had it.
So how did he get it to smoke it then?
I'd give it to him or smoke it with him.
Okay. Did he have large sums of cash that he carried around?
No.
Did he have flashy gold jewelry or anything that would make him the subject of somebody who wanted to execute a hit on him or break into the trailer to rob him of anything?
No.
Did Mr. McNabb have enemies that you were aware of that were capable or on the radar of somebody who might break into the trailer to steal his baby and kill it?
No.
The day of October the 7th, after you learned that the child had been, quote unquote, kidnapped, were you and Mr. McNabb texting on that day or communicating via Facebook Messenger about what he needed to do?
What do you mean?
Did you give him advice about what he needed to do about his child being missing? Do you recall that?
I told him he needed to pray about it.
I'm going to tender into evidence, Judge, State's Exhibit number 72, which is 2 volumes of Facebook records for the Facebook account Jordan, Jordynn, Headcrack, spelled with a C, Headcrak, Izzo, Izzo.
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Frost,
No objection, Your Honor.
submitted without objection.
There's a business record certification that accompanies it, Judge. I'm going to put up on the screen page 77 of these records. And again, starting here at the bottom of these records, can you see a message there that you would have sent to Chris McNabb? Are you aware that Jordan Headcrack Izzo was his Facebook address at some point in time?
Yes.
All right, that message here that says Shane Kidd, was that a message that you sent on October the 8th? That says 6:07 UTC time, so 4 hours behind that would be 2:07 in the morning.
Yes.
Can you tell the members of the jury what you said to him?
Said, Chris, I ain't heard anything. The only thing I know to do is pray that she is okay. Y'all need to do the same. Get on your knees and beg the good Lord to bring her home safe. I love y'all, and I'm praying for her and y'all.
And did Mr. McNabb communicate with you on October the 8th at 2:34 p.m. asking you for something?
Yes.
What was he asking for?
He said, Unc, I gotta have a bag of groceries. You dig, see if you can take me shopping.
Okay, now, what does the term "unk" mean to you?
Uncle?
Is that what he referred to you as?
Yes.
And when he talks about a bag of groceries, is he talking about going Krogering, or is he talking about something else?
He's talking about something else.
What is he talking about?
A bag of meth.
And you responded saying what?
I don't have any groceries right now. Go into the grocery store, what you need, and I'll get it.
And then, again, that would have been roughly 2:30 in the afternoon, the day after his child went missing. And then what did he tell you?
I won't sleep until my little baby is back home.
And you said in response?
I figured I would do the same. I said,
What did you tell him next?
you want to tell me what you need so I can get it?
And then on the following day, on October the 8th, again, this would say 20 military time, UTC time. So assuming that UTC time means 4 hours behind, you would have texted him that afternoon. What did you tell him?
I said, boy, wherever you are, do the right thing, get on your knees and pray for forgiveness. And the right thing, I don't know what happened, but that baby girl deserved more than that, not a duffel bag in the woods.
So when you said that message, had you learned that the child had been found in the woods in a duffel bag?
Yes.
Were you giving him advice?
Yeah.
Are you aware that your name was brought up in this investigation via Courtney to Chris about you possibly being the person who went into the trailer and killed the child?
No.
Do you recall being in the presence of Courtney after Chris was arrested with some young girl who, I guess, started some gossip about this case?
Yes.
Tell the members of the jury about that. Where were you and what happened?
We were at somebody's house in Conyers, and anyway, the girl called Courtney outside and told her that I had told her that I killed their baby. Courtney come back inside and told me, and I said, I went outside and confronted the girl, and she said that she didn't say it, that she said something else.
So are you aware that Mr. McNabb brought your name up in this investigation as a person? Would you have ever broken into that trailer to kill baby Caliyah?
No.
Those are all the questions I have for this witness.
Mr. Carter?
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Kidd. How are you?
All right.
Just have a couple of questions for you. You said you were in communication with Mr. McNabb the night of October 6th, morning of October 7th, to some extent. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your usual manner of communication with him is through Facebook.
Right.
In fact, that's really the only way you got in touch with him, unless one of y'all had a phone and you knew what the other's number was, right?
He had a phone. He would call me, Facebook call me, or whatever.
But you generally did not communicate, except usually by Facebook. All right. You are the Jeremy Shane Kidd that pled guilty to giving false name to a law enforcement officer in the Superior Court of Morgan County on May 13th of 2009. Is that right?
Yeah.
Your Honor, at this time I would tender Defense Exhibit N10.
Objection.
Certified copy.
Submitted without objection.
You're the Jeremy Shane Kidd that pled guilty to giving false information to a law enforcement officer in Newton County on September 22nd of 2011. Is that right?
Yeah.
Your Honor, tender Defense Exhibit M11.
No objection.
Submitted without objection.
And you are the same Jeremy Shane Kidd that pled guilty to giving false information to a police officer in Jasper County, Georgia on December 12th of 2017. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, tender certified copy, defendants N12.
No objection.
Submitted without objection.
And you are actually on probation now, is that right?
Yes.
Up until 2 weeks ago, you had a probation warrant out for you, is that correct?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Are you aware that the DA arranged to have that probation warrant lifted so that you could come into Newton County and talk to them?
No.
Objection, Judge. There's no evidence of that.
Objection sustained.
All right. When you spoke with Chris McNabb, you spoke with him on his Facebook account called Jordan Headcrack Izzo, is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the only Facebook account that you spoke with him on?
No,
All right. Which other ones did you speak with him on?
just about everyone he's had.
All right. On October 8th, 2017, when you're talking with him, telling him he needs to pray and talking about getting groceries for him, you were speaking on Jordan Headcrack Izzo, is that correct?
Yes.
Nothing further. Go.
Mr. Frost?
Yes, sir, thank you. Just a couple questions, Mr. Kidd.
What exactly did you mean when you were telling him you better get on your knees and pray? What is it you think he should have been praying for?
For what he did.
Which is killing
Baby.
Caliyah.
Yeah.
Did you ever notify authorities that you suspected him?
He'd already been arrested for it.
Okay, so this was after his arrest that you stated this.
Yeah.
As far as the
Well,
house
they were
being,
looking for him or whatever,
they were looking for him,
I guess.
but you talked to him. You talked to him the night before any of this. She even went missing, correct?
He was with me the night before,
Okay.
Thursday night.
Did you learn anything that night? Did you know
No,
anything?
Thursday night or Friday night.
The night before she went missing, or the morning she went missing.
No,
October
I
7th.
wasn't with him.
Early
Just tell him what day you're talking about.
October 7th,
Counselor, tell him the day of the week.
Friday.
Friday. I talked to him Friday afternoon, but Friday
Okay.
night I didn't talk to him.
And Saturday?
I didn't talk to him till like Saturday morning till, I don't know, somewhere around 8:30
8:30 a.m. or p.m.?
a.m.
You say the house was filthy. This was while Courtney was giving birth?
Yes.
She'd been at the hospital for 2 days, correct?
No. Not that I
No?
know of.
I'm
Not
sorry?
that I know of. Didn't she have the baby on Saturday? When I went to their house, it was on Saturday.
Okay. You're aware that she did give birth in a hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're aware that there was complications to that birth?
Yes.
And that she spent time in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. So the house being filthy, you arranged to have some people come in out of the goodness of your heart?
Yes.
But you do understand, of course, my client, prior to being in the hospital, giving birth for those 2 days, was also fully pregnant.
Yes.
Okay. And you say you went to the hospital, but you just sat in the car.
When they picked her up, yeah.
All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Ms. Zahn?
Are you aware of whether or not Chris was up at the hospital in one of those days between the 23rd and the 27th when the baby came home and then left in a sudden hurry?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
He called me and told me that that crime suppression and some other police were at the hospital, and he took off running. Well, he asked me to get him a ride, and the only people I could get to get him a ride was Missy Davis and Jamie Stevens.
Why did he take off running from the hospital where his baby was?
He said he thought he had a warrant on him, and they were there for him.
Where did he go to?
He went to the city park across from, well, down the street from the Covenant Police Department.
So he went to Academy Springs Park?
Yep.
Now, you indicated that he had multiple Facebook accounts,
Yes.
and was he texting you from all of those different ones?
Yes.
Are you absolutely certain that he was texting you in the morning hours of October the 7th when the baby was missing?
Yes.
What was he saying to you?
He was just asking me where I was, and I never, I didn't answer him. And at like 7:41 Saturday morning, he sent me a message and told me that he was wigging and tripping and needed to get out of there, and I didn't say anything to him.
What does wigging and tripping mean to those who don't smoke methamphetamines?
Paranoid.
And if you could just indulge me for a minute, for those who have not smoked methamphetamine, what is the effect? I mean, what happens? Do you stay up more than you
Yes.
normally would?
Yes.
Is it possible to not sleep when you smoke methamphetamines?
Yes.
Can that go for days?
Yes.
Have you done that personally?
Yes.
So literally, like, how many days in a row could you go without sleeping?
4 or 5.
With no sleep at all?
No sleep at all.
And what happens when you finally go to sleep?
You crash out. You sleep hard. You'll sleep for a day or so.
Has that happened to you?
Yes.
And on that particular day, how do you remember that 7:41 so specifically?
Because of what he said. And then, I don't know, it was less than an hour later, he sent me another message and told me that he couldn't find the baby. And that's when I finally responded to him and asked him, you know, what do you mean you can't find her? It ain't like she can get up and walk. You need to wake Courtney up and y'all need to find her.
And that is different from these messages that we saw earlier today?
Yes,
But you're certain about that?
I'm certain.
And the jury just heard that you've been convicted on multiple occasions of giving false information to a police officer. That's a misdemeanor offense?
Yes.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony, Shane Kidd?
Yes, in 1994.
What was that?
I was in 1994.
What was the crime, though?
Theft by taking and entering an auto.
Okay. Given the fact that you've lied to the police, or pled guilty at least on 3 different occasions to lying to the police, why should the jury believe what you're telling them today about the morning hours of the 7th and your communications with Mr. McNabb?
I mean, what I lied to the police about was my name because I had a warrant on me. I don't see no reason why I'd make up a lie about this.
Thank you. Those are all the questions that I have.
Gordon.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Kidd, the communication at 7:41 a.m. on October 7th, was that made over Facebook Messenger?
Yes.
Which account of yours was that from?
The only one I got.
All right. Do you have those messages?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't keep messages. If you ain't one of my kids and part of my family, I don't need them.
Would it surprise you to know that those messages are nowhere on Chris McNabb's Facebook Messenger?
I guess.
Which account? Judge, I would ask that to be clarified. This account?
Well, it's certainly not on this account because we've got those records in, right?
I guess.
Okay. So, are you aware that it's not on any account that has been, that we have subpoenaed? You're aware that none of those accounts contain any information about Chris McNabb texting you at 7:40, 8:40, anytime in that morning?
No.
Ms. Zahn showed you where you were speaking with Chris McNabb on October 8th after the police had been called, as you said. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you are aware that there are no other messages from you during that time period except those messages she showed you.
Yeah.
Is that correct? But you're trying to tell this jury that you have the key to this case and that you know that Chris McNabb was awake during a time when he was supposed to be asleep. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to take your word for it. Is that right? So when did you go to Investigator Alexander and tell him this?
I don't know, a couple of weeks after he was arrested.
You told Investigator
No,
Alexander?
I told Bo Alexander.
All right, told Bo Alexander this
Yes, I
a
did.
couple weeks after she was arrested. All right, did you tell Investigator Jeff Alexander that?
No.
I have nothing for you.
Mr. Frost?
Just a couple questions.
Mr. Kidd, I'm sorry, I may have not articulated my question properly, or perhaps you misunderstood it, I'm not sure which. On a Saturday, October 7th, 2017, Saturday morning, the morning the child went missing, you're saying that at 7:41, you knew that child was missing?
No, he sent me a message at 7:41 and said that he was wigging and tripping and needed to get out there for a little while.
I thought you just said you
No,
need to.
I said what
Let
I
me
said
finish,
was-
sir.
All right.
I did not hear him say that. I heard him say what he's saying up here.
Okay. Did you not say you need to wake up Courtney?
Yeah, about an hour later, he sent me another message that said he couldn't find the baby.
Okay, so that would be around 8:41.
I guess, yeah,
Still when everybody was supposed to be sleeping.
yeah.
But you're clear on the fact that so at 8:41,
I'm not sure if it was 8:41. I said less than an hour later.
Less
After
than an hour later,
7:41.
so
I
8:30?
mean, I ain't exactly sure what time it was.
8:30?
Could have been.
Okay. In any event, he says, "Wake up, Courtney."
No, I told him to wake up Courtney.
I'm sorry, you're right. But you say, "Wake up, Courtney," so you presume she's sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He said he couldn't find the baby. I told him, I said, well, you need to get Courtney's ass up and y'all need to find the baby. That's what I said.
All right. Did you, at any point in between that point and the time that the child was discovered, suspect foul play?
No.
You did not. What did you think happened? Did you have an opinion?
I had no idea. I didn't have any idea what happened.
Now listen to me, when they object, you need to stop talking until I can listen and make some ruling.
I'll rephrase that question.
Okay?
Was there anything that you knew that could have possibly assisted you in formulating an opinion on what may have happened?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Ms. Zahn,
Nothing further, Judge.
you may step on down. You may call your next witness.
Your Honor, could I take up a issue outside the presence of the
Yes,
judge?
I'll excuse the jury back to the jury room. Everybody be seated. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to renew my objection to joinder in this case and ask for a mistrial. As we started this case, we thought what we could get, that we could handle these two cases where two people are charged with completely separate offenses together. As we've gone through the trial, we found that the burden of proof against Ms. Bell is completely different. The facts against Ms. Bell are completely different.
Reasonable doubt. How could it be different?
I'm sorry, the elements of each offense are different, and the facts against each client are different. The jury is getting absolutely confused about who's charged with what.
How do you make a statement like that?
Well,
They
okay.
haven't shown any confusion at all to the court.
All right.
I'm not confused myself. So you can't make a speculation or conjecture about the jury.
All right, as we've gone through, we've heard hours and hours of testimony from the statements from the defendants. There are brutal issues included in there. We tried to get as much as we could out, but there's speculation on the part of Ms. Bell. There are things about abuse by Ms. Bell. Those are not supposed to be used against Mr. McNabb, but yet they're still included in those statements. As we've gone through, Mr. Frost, I have no idea what he's doing. This witness, Ms. Zahn and I have already agreed that there's no evidence that there was any kind of message at 7:41. Ms. Zahn did not ask the witness that because we know it's not reliable. We know nothing is going on. But Mr. Frost got up for
Now, you're speaking
whatever
for Ms.
reason.
Zahn when you say that she contends that's not reliable.
No, she understands that there is no evidence
Stop
whatsoever.
a second. You're getting excited. I want you to slow down. You keep on talking about other people. That when you make that statement, Ms. Zahn, she immediately, I look at her in her face, I can tell from the expression on her face that she's not agreeing with you. So let's keep out other people and what you think the jury thinks.
I understand. Ms. Zahn did not get into the specifics of those calls because there is no evidence to back that up. But yet Mr. Frost got up for no apparent reason. It's as if he's prosecuting Mr. McNabb for no particular reason at all, because that doesn't help his case at all. But he's completely sabotaging Mr. McNabb's case. And it was a mistake to join these trials. They should be separate. Mr. Frost should be doing whatever it is that he's doing on his own because it's affecting Mr. McNabb's trial very detrimentally. And I would ask that the court declare a mistrial, separate these cases, let us do these trials separately.
Mr. Frost?
Judge, and I understand Mr. Carter's frustration. First, I would like to say, as to my last questioning, for that as an example, for me to have someone get up and say that my client is clearly asleep does help my case. But I do agree with Mr. Carter in the sense that this whole trial has been very difficult for us because I can barely ask a question that doesn't have a double-edged sword. The more that anything that I do to anything that hurts him comes back and hits us. And that's just, it's the nature of the case. It is difficult. It's extremely difficult because the elements are different. And on those grounds, I have to agree with Mr. Carter. This has been a tremendously difficult situation. You know, my strategy has been one of trying to walk a razor blade a mile high and hope that I don't fall off. And that's about all I can do, because anything that I ask does have blowback on us. You know, anytime I cross-examine somebody, if it hurts him, furthers their case. That's the state's, I mean. So to that extent, I would join Mr. Carter in that motion.
Ms. Zahn?
Your Honor, these two defendants do not have antagonistic defenses. They have similar defenses in that she indicates that she was asleep and unaware of who came in and took the child and killed the child. He says the same. This last witness happens to punch a hole in that. Whether or not the jury believes him or not is going to be up to the jury, but that witness punches a hole in it with respect to one defendant, not with respect to the other. That's not a Bruton issue. That's I can't help it that the state's trying to convict the defendants by introducing prejudicial evidence against the defendants. The fact that Miss Bell might benefit from that, I mean, that's been the state's theory all along. We've never had her claiming that she knows he did it, and certainly he doesn't claim that she did it, so there's not a Bruton issue. We went through great lengths for 2 days to take any speculation on her behalf out of these statements where she ever says he did it, and quite frankly, there's not any statements that we ever took out where he says or she says that he did it. So, I mean, this witness presented evidence and specifically talked about Facebook messages that are no longer present. I never agreed with Mr. Carter that there was no evidence or it wasn't reliable. I simply agreed that they were not present in these records. But that doesn't mean that they weren't deleted by either Mr. McNabb. They were on a different account. He had several different accounts, which will come out with the next witness that the state has. So I'm not even really clear what Mr. Carter's objection is, except it's not fair that the state's trying to prove its case.
Anything else from anybody?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor.
Well, as the court's already found earlier, this is not an evidentiary, complicated kind of case. As Mr. Frost set out in opening, he's trying to distance his client totally from Mr. Carter's client. They are differently charged on these matters. There is no effort on the state's part to claim that Miss Bell knowingly and intentionally had anything to do with the murder of the child, which is what he is being charged with. The only commonality of the charges is the murder in the second degree. The cruelty to children in the second degree are the only two charges the court discerns are the same charges between the two, and that's for the environment of that trailer and how it was kept. It's really more toward her than him on those charges. But the court sees no complexity in this case at all, Mr. Carter, and can't help it that the environment they're in, the conditions they're in, the people they hang around with, all of that damns them both. It is what it is. And you can't jump up now and claim, Judge, it's really bad against my client because of the situation and what everybody's testifying to. And this last witness that you're claiming really is the impetus for your motion. As y'all have all said, there's no evidence in any of these records. There's some explanations for why there might not be evidence in the records. And I take Mr. Frost's word that the reason why he was doing that was pointing out that his client was asleep at the time, meaning that she's not really involved because of the, I could even say the charge he's tried to put in or has put in on knowledge. He wants to be able to argue later. She didn't know that the murder was happening. And we'll get to that when we get to the charge conference. I deny your motion. Anything else from anybody?
Just may we have a brief recess before the state's last witness? Just a rush break?
Yes, ma'am. We'll go ahead and take our morning recess. Alert the jurors that we're taking our morning recess.